for 2021. My name is Robina Carlson and I am the Digital Marketing Manager here at Refuel Creative. We are a HubSpot Platinum Partner and are thrilled today to bring to you a very special event and a very special guest. Platon, I really should have been practicing your name, Platz, a little bit more in terms of pronunciation, but Platz Lokainov, who's a growth lead at Cradle. With a background in marketing, he's deeply passionate about using tech and data to improve all elements of business. Having started and still doing both inbound and outbound sales for Cradle, he's seen firsthand how a HubSpot integrated phone can create a much smoother experience for the business and the customer, which makes him super excited to be involved in the future of communication. Today, we've got some really, really interesting topics that we're going to be discussing. We'll be talking about call tracking and the leaps and bounds that HubSpot have made in that area in the last few months or so. We'll also be having a chat about conversational intelligence, which is a new feature that HubSpot has released recently to enterprise clients. And then following on from that, of course, we're going to hear a little bit more about Cradle as well. I can say from my experience personally as a Cradle user here at Refuel, we are huge fans of the platform. The desktop app is fantastic, and works really, really well. And also having the convenience of having it as a phone app as well has just been amazing. So it's been a really, really forward thinking. So without further ado, I might hand over to Platz. I think it's probably your turn to take the stage. So over to you, we'll go. So heads up, presenter mode coming your way. Platz, are you there?
Hi there.
Go. Awesome. Love this, man. That looks great.
Yeah, good to see you. Awesome start. Thank you for having me today. I'm just going to set up this video to go. It'll be one moment.
Perfect. Alrighty. And I'll just switch my presenter mode off and over to you, Platz. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you, Robina. Hey guys, so today I just want to talk a little bit about, what connecting your calls to HubSpot means for business. So first of all, tēnā koutou katoa, which means welcome all in Māori. Welcome everybody. Thanks to the team at Refuel, Robina and Chloe for inviting me to speak here today. My name's Platz, not to be confused with the AFL legend, John Platz. I am the growth lead here at Cradle. We're a cloud-based telecommunications company and Kiwi as in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Our mission at Cradle is basically to use conversational data to help businesses connect with their customers, or as we like to call it, to Cradle conversations. I want to keep today's presentation pretty short and simple. My goal is just to walk, or for each one of you to walk out of here today with a bit of curiosity around how calling could fit into your HubSpot and business overall. So a quick run through of kind of what I have on the board for today. So in case anyone has wound up accidentally in the wrong call, firstly, what is a cloud phone system? What is HubSpot and what is it not? A quick refresher in case you haven't heard enough about HubSpot yet. What's a phone call worth to your business? Does it add value or just a cost? Finally, what does it look like when your single source of truth has the whole truth, not the Swiss cheese truth model? I'll show you and talk through some examples of what you can learn when all of your calls are always in HubSpot. And lastly, I just wanted to show you a little bit about HubSpot's new call intelligence feature, which is pretty awesome, and what this means for the future of calling, as Rowena mentioned. There's plenty of time at the end for questions, but feel free to shoot anything in the chat, I believe, just anything that comes to mind throughout the presentation. So firstly, what's a cloud phone system? What is it? Before, business phones looked basically what I have on the screen here, which was copper lines, server rooms, big black boxes sitting at your desk, reception throwing calls all over the office, phones that couldn't leave your desk, and most importantly, no visibility or records into what's happening with these phones. It was expensive. It's clunky. It's a horrible experience for both the customer and you as a business. Today, this is as simple as logging into an app and taking a phone call directly from your phone or laptop practically anywhere in the world. Your traditional phone system has gone poof, and now you have a piece of software that makes calls over the internet. And I think what makes this important is kind of two key driving forces. So one, we have distributed and remote work. So with kind of situations like the pandemic last year and still ongoing, and more open policies around hiring abroad, this has meant that teams don't have to be in the same building, let alone in the same country to work together. And as an example of some situations that's happened to us, during the lockdown last year, we had a surge in customers come on through where they basically had nowhere else to turn because all of their systems were basically tied to their desk, and overnight they had to basically leave it all and make sure they ensure business continuity and set up a remote system. So it's a really big deal, and it's pretty much consistent across most businesses and especially B2B. Number two, and probably something prevalent a lot more, especially with modern systems, is customers are demanding a high level of customer service. And there needs to be a way to have visibility into the sort of unseen space. So the example I like to use here is, I'm sure everyone at one point in their lives has had a situation where you were unhappy about something, or you had an inquiry where you're just trying to set something up like your internet, and you call into the main line hoping to find an answer. And what you're met with is this. So as an example of me calling business, I call in, hi, what's your name and how can I help? And I'm like, okay, well, hi, I'm Platts. I want to set up my internet. Great, I'm not the right person, but let me put you on hold and I'll transfer you through to the right person. Done. And do, 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 do. I'm on hold music for the next 10 minutes. Someone picks up, great. Hi, who's this? Hi, this is Platts. I need to set up my internet. Sorry, let me put you through to the right person. Hold. Do, 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 do. So I'm sure many of you have experienced the situation and can understand just how frustrating it is. You want to call in to get an answer to a question, and you're met with a long, long wait time. You're feeling like no one knew or validated. Yeah, it's definitely very frustrating. You don't feel validated. It's a horrible, horrible experience. So what would this look like with sort of more modern solutions? And oh, whoops. Okay, so with a more modern solution, what does this look like? I call into a main line. Hi, Platts. How's it going? Good, thank you. Just wanting to call about getting my internet set up. Great. I can see you were checking out our webpage about internet in Glenside. Was this what you were looking for? Yep. Awesome. I'll get the team onto it. Thank you. Now, how much of a difference and how much better was that conversation? I felt validated. I felt like I connected with the right person. I got what I came here for, which was to set up my internet. And I walked away just, feeling like I connected with the business. And so these two key driving forces of remote teams and understanding phone calls has resulted in today's version of what a cloud phone system is. And so this brings me to sort of the next part, which is HubSpot. And what, most importantly, what HubSpot is and what it isn't. And as we all know, HubSpot's a pretty awesome tool. It caters to basically every function of a business: sales, marketing, service, and not to mention the recent ops tools. And it's really one holy grail of being the simplest and easiest to use CRM. And a CRM is something that you need to be able to rely upon to accumulate, house, and serve up all the relevant information on a prospect or customer, right? And by relevant, I mean clicks on your website, emails, notes, quotes, deals, basically any data point of value you really want to have in there, right? And obviously, you want to then use this information and layer things like sales enablement tools over the top of it, any process improvements, and then use this to ultimately grow your business. So when we ourselves first got started as a team, we heard from other HubSpot customers and decided to hop on the bandwagon or the flywheel, so to speak, and see what it's all about. And what we quickly found was that HubSpot does a really, really good job at nearly everything. And this nearly everything is what leads me to my first question. If it's so great, what's missing? To really understand the value of a phone call, I want to ask you a few questions, and feel free to chuck your answers into the chat or just grab your pencil and think through your answers. So, first of all, how do you interact with your customers today? And what about it really works? How do you know that it's working? And how do you think you could improve upon it? What do you notice about the things you think are working? And lastly, why do you think they're working so well? And to expand on that a bit further, I'd like you to think about the different channels that you use to communicate with your customers. Think email, phone, messenger, social. Hopefully this is pretty easy and they're all identifiable in HubSpot on each context timeline. And I want you to think about one of these three examples that you may have had with your customers and think through how you would have handled the situation. So as an example, your customer hasn't paid you. Their bill is overdue by 30 days and you're getting pissed off. What do you do? Another example, your customer is frustrated with you. Your product isn't working for them. They have tried getting it sorted, but it just isn't working. What happens? I'm just reading Ravina's answer. Yeah, phone calls are definitely quicker. Another question, you're chasing a big deal. You've left a few messages for your key contact, and they're deciding between you and a competitor. And finally, they return your call. Who picks up the phone? What I'm kind of trying to get your attention at here is what channel you chose and why. All of these are what we at Cradle would refer to as critical communication. And in most instances, unless you can meet the person directly face to face, a phone call is still the best channel to use in these instances. So this leads me to why. Because talking is one of the very few ways in which you can show empathy and actually getting a full picture of what's going on in your customers' lives. Often you'll find that just a bit of curiosity around how the world is failing your customer today will lead you to a much faster and optimal outcome than any email or chatbot ever will. I had a pretty good example of this the other day with one of my colleagues, Joel, who was dealing with a situation with one of our customers, and it was a real simple misunderstanding of timelines, and it wasn't so to speak communicated in the wrong way. It was just both each person had a different interpretation of what was going on, and this was going on an email chain for about 8 to 10 emails, and they picked up the phone and the whole situation was sorted in about 2 minutes. And it goes to show just like one quick, easy phone call, although it's not the most pleasant thing at times to do, it's such a relieving experience because people can just express themselves and articulate exactly what it is they want, and you can get on the same page and understanding. Awesome. So back on track in terms of critical communication. My question kind of moves away here from the priority and more into, does a business have critical communication in a business? And what are those ramifications of screwing these up? Alternatively, what happens when you get them right? As part of my role, I do a lot of calls and demos with customers. One of the most common questions I'll ask is, do you know how many calls your team make? And you'd be surprised at how many people don't know the answer to this. What if I asked you, Yep, we'll be sending the recording of this out, Dario, afterwards. Um, in terms of just like calls that you make, so if you don't know how many calls you're making, that's one aspect. But what happens when, for example, you don't know how many calls you've missed? What if I told you of the 10 calls that you missed, 5 were from leads and with deal values of 20 grand? All of a sudden, that's a really big deal. And you can see emails, you can measure activity, you can see when a customer clicks on a website. But when a customer arguably does the most highest intent action item, which is pick up the phone and actually have a conversation with you, this goes completely unnoticed on HubSpot. And there's that old saying, you can only manage what you measure. How do you know that you and your team are communicating with customers in the right way? In other words, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody is there to hear it, does it really make a sound? So I want you to imagine what your business would look like if calling became the norm. How would your customers feel? Do you think they'd feel happier that if they spoke to someone and had their anxieties or questions alleviated? What would make your own team comfortable with picking up the phone? And what would they need to know to do a good job? Now imagine that you can measure what impact phone calls have for your business. What would that look like? Imagine if you could have your caller's information at your fingertips. Imagine if you could automatically send a text to a missed call to book in a meeting with you, or give your sales rep a task when the lead leaves you a voice message. What if you could accurately bill for your time when a client calls you all day? What if I didn't have to take notes for a call because you knew it was going to be recorded? And what if I could pull up a report from HubSpot that listed time spent servicing a customer and the average monthly spend with you and the total lifetime spend? Would that help guide you to make a better decision? Excuse the ship in the background. And this is where the HubSpot comes into play. The HubSpot integration means that Cradle captures data points on every call that you have and then pushes this into HubSpot. Vice versa, any relevant information for incoming calls that you need at your fingertips is pulled from HubSpot. Here's an example of just one different way of viewing information that you have on your customers when you build all of your calling, and in this case, your revenue, into HubSpot. So the above screen that I have here, here's a breakdown of some of our own customers we're spending time servicing or maybe over servicing. And once you know this kind of information, your team can start to really feel empowered to find the answers to these questions and improve on it. I hope this is starting to spark some curiosity as to what this could mean for your business. Another aspect of this integration is automation. So visibility is one side of the equation, but if you could automate the bits in between, returning back to the point I kind of mentioned earlier around critical communication and the types of communication you have with your customer. What if you did actually miss an important call from a customer? What would be the best way to handle that? Sometimes you end up in situations of playing phone tennis, or maybe you're away on sick leave, or whatever the reason is, right? You want to be able to communicate that in a short form style and make your customer feel like you didn't just disappear off the face of the planet. For example, we have a workflow internally where if a customer leaves us a voice message, I'll be set a task that they left me a voice message with a transcription of their voicemail, and they will receive both a personalized email and a text saying, "Hey, sorry I missed your call, just out at the moment, but feel free to grab a time in my calendar." So just a nice little touch to make sure that we're still connected, I'm still here, and kind of bridging that gap of miscommunication or no communication. And this could look really different for your own business, but once you have that conversational data in HubSpot, you can begin to design some pretty novel solutions. So obviously something that's been on everyone's mind is HubSpot's recent call intelligence feature. So they've recently come out with this for enterprise customers. And so we've had a bit of a play around. It is a really awesome feature. At this stage, what this basically does is allow for transcriptions for any outgoing or incoming calls. So full transparency, my colleagues James and Joel did a call together, and it's fair to say that it doesn't particularly love the Aussie or the Kiwi accent, but that's definitely not to say that it doesn't offer value. This is a pretty massive step in the right direction towards something that's called sentiment analysis. So sentiment analysis is a pretty awesome bit of recent innovation to come out, where you can use AI to strip out a call, break it down into action items such as positive moments, pain points, objections, or even just looking out for keywords like, for example, price discussed in the demo. So now what I have up on the screen is just one of the calls I did. So this isn't using HubSpot's sentiment analysis. This is using the HubSpot call transcription. And then we have a third-party integration with Avoma, which has pulled that and transcription out, run a sentiment analysis, and pushed it back into HubSpot. Now, what this means for your team is pretty awesome, and it's something I'm personally really excited about. If you think about coaching new sales staff, if you're trying to reduce ramp times down, reviewing unhappy or happy customer service queries, picking out the language of your top performing teams to close a deal, or just trying to have an understanding of what words you use and what effect they have, this is really a tool for that. It's amazing watching, for example, my own calls. There's the whole saying about you should always be listening more in a call than you should be talking. It's real. It's interesting just picking out, where you're talking, why are you talking, what did you say there? Those things really come in handy, and all of a sudden you can really, I guess, start to review your own behavior and make changes in a positive direction. And these things are all possible today. So this isn't just some features being built or in the future. This is all possible, and we're doing these things right now. So look, to summarize some of the items discussed on the board, we've gone through a quick overview of a cloud phone system and what is HubSpot and what it does well and where it has gaps, and how the ecosystem does a great job of filling those gaps. I've asked just a few questions to get you thinking about what calling does for your business. I really encourage you to think about what value you place on a call and whether you should have more transparency over the calls that do happen. Disclaimer, this isn't for everyone. Some businesses completely don't require a phone, but it's just something to think about for those that do. We've dug a little bit into how you're communicating now and asked some questions that should guide you towards understanding if you're using the right channel, does your company have a communication policy, and maybe then it should be something that you should think about. What's next? If you see opportunities to help your team have better, more human conversations that help your business grow, perhaps you can consider how calling should fit into your HubSpot stack. I feel like now would be a really good time to kind of kick into any questions and answers over the presentation. Awesome, Daria.
And Platts, I'm rejoining the conversation. Thank you for such a wonderful presentation this morning. I think it really gave us some great insights, and also I could see a lot of comments there, particularly from Daria around. Please do, Daria, share. We'll get to them, absolutely.
Yeah, no, definitely share your questions.
But yeah, certainly for me, there were a lot of moments there in your presentation where it was, yes, preach,
Yeah.
man, preach. No, it was really, 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 really great. So I've got one to kick us off, Platts.
Yep.
If we could just have a chat about, the privacy standpoint. All of these amazing technologies, and certainly, from a BD and a sales perspective, I certainly have found Cradle to be really useful because, if I'm picking up, as we were saying before, if you're picking up the lead or, someone sent off the deal, but then your colleague's gone on holidays or they're unavailable, but you need to action something super fast. All of a sudden you do have access to that recording, so you can hear back the last couple of messages and then figure out, okay, this is where we're up to. So for me, I find that to be a really useful tool, particularly in sales, but also in a service context too, to check where projects are at. And if, a client called and spoke to one of the team, at least I know, if we need to follow up, we can go back and check the records and so on. My question is around privacy, and from, I guess, the other person's perspective, whether they're our potential client, they're our actual client, what is the sort of best practice that you would be looking to implement as part of, advising customers or potential customers that, the call is being recorded and so on?
Yeah, so it's a really great question, and it's something that's quite top of mind for us. So for reference, our founder is really big on privacy. James, it's a bit of echo there. He's really big on privacy, and a lot of the plumbing in our own product has really incorporated those aspects to make sure that we're following top security procedures, that we're that this is all in line with I think the Privacy Act in New Zealand and whatnot. So I guess there's two aspects to this, right? One is the tools that we can do. So we've ensured that you as a customer have all the capability to go and disable these call recordings to, you can, during a call, if a customer for any reason went and said to you, hey, I'm not happy for this to be recorded, you can switch it off instantly. It's not there and it's gone. All recordings can be access controlled via HubSpot. So for example, if my colleague didn't want me, there was a privacy concern with me as another member of the team being able to see the call recordings of another staff member, you can assign it so that way I can only see the contacts of which I'm the contact owner. And in that case, I wouldn't have access to the call recordings on there. So in regards to sort of access control there, we've enabled that too. Around sort of BDs and approaching that, look, it really depends on state by state. Obviously, in a one-party consent state, you don't have to do this, although it's probably nice to inform the person on the other end of the phone, yes, this is being recorded for a training purpose. In a two-party consent state, look, it's always required that at the start of a call, you brief them and you say, hey, I just wanted to let you know we are recording this conversation. Is this something that you're okay with? But in terms of best guidelines, it really depends on your industry and what your product is, how you're selling it, but just always kind of make sure that you're following legal procedure, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Dario, you are hitting us with the questions today. Let's start with the first one. How much work do you think would be required in transferring a call center-based business on a legacy CRM to Cradle plus HubSpot?
Oh, interesting question. So, I mean, Rubina, you might have a better input on the HubSpot aspect of this. With regards to Cradle, so do you want to start with the HubSpot side, Rubina, or do you want me to kick off?
No, you start with Cradle. It's
Sweet. Well, with the Cradle side, so Cradle has a one-click HubSpot integration. It takes about 30 seconds. So all requires that you have HubSpot set up initially. I mean, that's literally it. We have no downtime from our end, so it integrates automatically with HubSpot. And with regards to porting numbers, there's about anywhere from a 24-hour to 3 to 4 week wait time. But in that process, we go and basically establish call forwards on any existing numbers to make sure that none of your there's no day that you just miss calls accidentally. With the HubSpot side, Rubina, do you want to speak on this one?
Yeah, no, definitely. So in terms of, the legacy CRM to HubSpot, certainly CRM migration projects can be quite time consuming, but, ultimately it comes down to, taking a look at the data, exporting it out from the current CRM, and really going over it with a fine tooth comb to make sure that the data is clean and good to go, and then uploading it into HubSpot is a relatively quick process from there. In my experience, when it comes to this sort of thing, the time is really in just that transition phase when the data is in a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet, and you're just looking at hopefully not too many thousands of lines of contacts, but certainly that is one way to look at it. Sure. But that, in terms of the amount of work, look, it sounds like given those sort of timeframes, in terms of the porting the numbers over, the other consideration, Dario, is training as well, to keep in mind. So, if the call center is currently on a legacy CRM, obviously there are plenty of tools in the academy. There's also, you can offer customized training and so on as well. But yeah, there will be that sort of that training component that needs to be accounted for as well. And, learning Cradle is very easy, I found. The user experience is, very intuitive. Because it does connect with HubSpot. If you're running it through the desktops, as long as everybody's got a nice pair of headsets, I think the recommendation there is a Jabra Evolve, if I'm not mistaken, Platts.
Yep.
And I'm fairly certain you're wearing them right now. Those that once you have those in, the interface is very easy to follow. So I do think that, the training requirements are minimal. Having said that, Daria, when you're working with a business where the legacy software is in place, the legacy phone systems are in place, there's probably a bit of change management that you'll have to go through there as well with the organization. So I think from a technical standpoint, it's not a lot of work. But from a change management perspective, particularly if they've got old legacy systems and people who have been in the business for a long time, it can be difficult to shift those mindsets. And so that's just another consideration from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you guys do a great job at that as well.
Thank you. We do try hard. So the next question is, do you see this combination work for a franchise with multiple contractors and a central call center?
Interesting question. It would depend on the relationship with the contractors. I guess, what are they using now? Are they just using their own phones? It's a really good question. Contractors is a bit more difficult. So definitely central call center, yes, very easy.
They are just using their own phone, Platts. Daria's just responding in the...
their own phone? Okay, awesome. Yeah, look, I would say probably for the central call center, yes. Less so for the contractors, just because they're operating as their own business. It would be easier as an employee relationship, obviously, because, you as a business, you want to make sure that, your communication is done between the business. And for example, if staff leave for any reason or something, you still want to be able to have, have those connections with those clients. For a contractor, that relationship might be a little bit more difficult. So it really depends on a case by case. It's probably something we would have to sit down and have a chat about.
Yeah. Having said that, though, the Cradle app is available on iPhone and Android. Works without any issue on those. So again, I think it comes more back to the business questions rather than the technical questions there when it comes to the contractors. The answer, is it possible? Yes. The question is, do you want to be giving that level of access to a contractor? I think is ultimately what it comes down to the customer database and so on.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And then the final question that Daria has here is, what is the name of the company that does sentimental analysis?
Good question. That was Avoma. So Avoma, I believe through Cradle is, to double check and confirm, it's $35 a user. And it's an amazing tool. It can hop into your meetings. It basically, we have it as a Cradle note taker. It takes any notes down. It can record the meeting. Avoma, so with an A, but very close. It's an awesome tool. Yep. Avoma.
Yeah, look, the AI is sort of really starting to take the next level now. We're using a program called Fireflies at the moment on our Zoom calls, and it basically sits there and takes notes. And it's just amazing because at the end of the meeting, you're like, I have, basically a full minute of what happened. It's a live transcription service basically by an AI. Which is it's quite incredible how far that technology is coming. And while there are moments where you read the transcript and it doesn't quite make sense, the key points are there, and certainly the bulk of the information. And again, when you're looking at it from a sales perspective and a BD perspective, it's really useful to have that additional information. You may not have time to sit through an entire meeting all over again recording, but you certainly do have time to scan the notes that come out of a transcription service. Kind of following and sort of wrapping around back onto the conversational intelligence tool for enterprise HubSpot clients. It's an incredible tool that actually is offering those sort of transcription services off phone calls and all that kind of thing as well. And I guess that's probably the one bigger question that we've probably come away from here, is that the technology here is just incredible and amazing. But, you know, just making sure that you're still working within the bounds of the legal, I think is a question to look at. So
Yeah,
very interesting. But yeah, certainly really exciting. Were there any further questions from the crowd this morning? If not, then I think we might wrap it up there. Let's have a look. And no further questions from Dario. No worries. Okay. Well, thank you again, Platt, so much for coming in and joining us all the way from across the ditch, as they say.
No, thank you for having me.
And yeah, it's been a really wonderful session. The recording will be made available afterwards. And on that note, we might just wrap up. No
problems. I think I had one quick note.
Yes.
I believe we're doing right now an exclusive offer for anyone watching this and attending, that they have an extended trial. So we typically do sort of 7-day trials, and we're doing, believe it's between 2 to 3 weeks now. So yeah, there's just if you do want to give it a try and hop on and test it for yourself, you do have that sort of extended timeline right now.
Great. Fantastic. And we'll be back in touch via email. Keep in touch. Keep a lookout for the emails, and you'll see the recordings there.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.